Before, I hated being outside when it was hot and humid. I thought it just sucked the energy right out of me. It was almost suffocating. Just walking to the car was miserable, and I would be a sweaty mess in no time. But not anymore. Hello, friends. It's the Carnivore Rabbi. A rabbi is a teacher and source of inspiration, and that's what this channel provides for carnivores of all faiths. Welcome. I've been noticing something weird as a carnivore lately. I am less sensitive to the heat. It's strange. I noticed this about a month ago when I was walking the dog. You know how when it's really hot outside, the dog doesn't want to go for a walk. He starts rolling around, pulling the collar back, leaning back towards going home. And he's doing this over and over again. And I'm thinking, why? I'm looking around. It's not so bad out. I don't feel very hot. And this pattern repeats day after day. Finally, I start looking down at my phone to see, am I misreading the weather? And it's in the 90s, and it's hot and humid. Now, it's not like in Phoenix with my buddy, the Minimalist Carnivore, but it's pretty hot for Chicago. But I had not noticed it at all. It didn't feel like it. I even went for a run and didn't sweat very much. It's strange. And now the inverse is not true. I'm still very sensitive to the cold. In fact, I may be even more sensitive to the cold because there's less fat that's, insulating the body. But the heat has stopped bothering me, and I barely notice it. I texted a few other carnivores, and I asked them if they felt that same way, if the heat was bothering them less. 2 of them said yes, they barely noticed the heat, and 2 of them said it's no different than it was before they were carnivore. So it was 50-50 among my friends. But then I did a little research on Reddit, and I found several similar stories. Here's what one person wrote, quote, "I've noticed that when I get off work and step outside, the weather feels amazing. I'm talking 91 degrees and 92% humidity index, according to Google. I feel the heat on my skin, and I love it. I honestly didn't realize it was humid out. Before, I hated being outside when it was hot and humid. I thought it just sucked the energy right out of me. It was almost suffocating. Just walking to the car was miserable, and I would be a sweaty mess in no time. But not anymore. Has anyone else noticed this? I thought my city was just having a nice week of weather, but then someone was telling me that the humidity outside was gross and she was dying. I had no idea." That was a good one. Or how about this one, also on Reddit? "Where I live has been going through a heat wave recently. I don't have air conditioning like most people. I have noticed that I don't notice the heat as much as I did in the past summers. I will go for a walk, and it will feel a little warm, but then I check the temperature, and it's in the 90s. In the past, I could survive just fine in the 90s, but I definitely felt really hot. Now it has to hit 100 before I even begin to consider it being hot and not just warm out. I can relate to this guy. The mid-90s feels fine. I can take a nap," he writes, "in the high 80s and not even use my fan. This would have been unthinkable last year." There are many posts like this. I just selected 2 of them. And they resonated exactly with my experience. I'm not sure why this is, but I've got a few ideas. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. This is speculation, but I think there's something to it. First, carnivore just brings us closer to nature. There's an evolutionary reason here. Our ancestors were out in the sun all the time. Yes, they would find shade, but they were outside so much more than we are. So they adapted, and they knew how to live comfortably in the heat. And carnivore brings us closer to nature. It rewilds us to a degree. So we're simply living as our ancestors would have lived. Number 2, it might just be that I'm feeling better generally. There's a natural high with carnivore, and the heat just doesn't bother me the way it used to. It's the carnivore glow, the carnivore transformation, the carnivore zen. We don't get tired after meals like many people. We don't have big drops in energy throughout the day like many people do. So maybe we just don't get as hot in the heat as other people do. Third, perhaps it's something around inflammation. Perhaps our body is just more relaxed and not as affected as much by the heat. Inflammation is the cause of so many problems. Fourth, another idea. When we stop eating carbs, we lose the excess water and bloating in the body. That excess water and bloating used to lead to higher body temperatures and sweating. When that's not there, we don't get those higher temperatures. Number 5, perhaps it's an increase in the amino acids in our bodies. One scientist wrote, "I'm very new to carnivore, but I started supplementing amino acids mid-summer to help with my running and noticed right after that that my heat tolerance increased dramatically." So my guess is that we don't experience the heat as much because of the increase in amino acids. Number 6, another interesting suggestion. It's easier for the body to make vitamin D from animal fat and protein. That vitamin D might act as a healing agent for the skin layers. It helps resist UV damage. Might be why carnivores don't get sunburn as much. This would be consistent with the return to nature idea. Our body is doing what it naturally does to protect itself. Number 7, this is interesting. 7th possibility. The fat content of the skin. Animal saturated fats have high flash points and are far more heat stable than plant oils and fats. So if they are incorporated into the skin, where we're just eating saturated fat and protein, perhaps there's some influence on resistance or lack thereof to the heat that is occurring. So we're simply more resistant to it because our skin is stronger. Our skin has a higher set point that it feels heat. Now, if this is true, which I'm pretty certain it is, it fits with the overall thrust of what carnivore does. Carnivore brings us back to our natural human state of homeostasis and equanimity. We are not meant to be sick, sweaty, and miserable. I can't remember where I heard this, but it was a really great anthropologist who studied hunter-gatherers. And he said something quite intriguing. He said there is nothing ugly in nature. Now think about that for a second. It seems totally strange at first. Of course, there are dogs or trees or plants we might describe as ugly. But if we are deep in a rainforest, say, and we see all the different bushes and trees and animals, everything fits. That's the natural state. Everyone and everything has its place. We know we have our natural place in the world as carnivores. And that's why the carnivore diet changes so much and makes us feel ever more comfortable in our own skin in the world around us.